think one more thing I want to talk about is the graphics. So the graphics in the introduction videos, you know, where I walk on with my different colored shirts each video, the ones where I write, do you like your job, or how do you define work, like those, the things I actually wrote on Adobe After Effects, which I was explaining in the previous video, I think, that was inspired by Dottie James, also partially by Rory Kramer, and it was all about the white in the videos. So I used different sized and different types of brushes in the program to create a bit of a diversity within the intros, so you just kind of see different styles of writing. I wrote certain words backwards, like emphasize their importance. So words I wrote kind of small, in a smaller font and in a smaller handwriting, and others I wrote in big, bold, all caps locks, just to emphasize, but also just to create diversity. In some videos, the thickness of the brush has a lot more significance than it does in other videos, but I did really try to make all of that quite aesthetically pleasing, and I feel like you can kind of see progression throughout, although I do think the very first video has a really interesting, like where all the letters are, the words are, because they kind of, I basically drew them all out so that they could fit one screen, and then I just cut little bits out so that you only see, so say this is the entire screen and all of it just says like, how do you define work, 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 like that kind of a thing. What I did was I made only like how visible and do you visible, and then because it all fit in a frame, it kind of like flickers around the screen, and I think that that's a really fun concept, and it kind of adds to the playfulness of the videos, because that's something I did try to really create, like a playful atmosphere. I think that's quite important to also make it less uncomfortable to watch, because I think in a previous video I did try to explain that I interviewed all of my interviewees in a place where they would feel comfortable. So I know my mum doesn't like being in front of a camera, so I asked her if she wanted to be on the couch when I interviewed her, and she liked that, and so having her on the couch just meant that she was in her own comfortable, natural habitat. It was also, and I had an idea to film in the locations where these people actually work, but it's logistically just insanely hard to do that. I did try. I mean, I filmed my drum teacher in his workplace, like I filmed him where I have my drum lessons. But I think it's hard to do that. You know, my dad has a postal company job. It would be hard to just set up a tripod and have no noises going on with all these like forklift trucks driving around carrying crates of post. I think that's a dangerous situation to be in. I also think that for my mum, for example, it would be hard to interview her because it's hard to get into the building, even if you're your mum's daughter. An employee's kid can't get in very easily. They literally put you through one of those airport scanners, and there's a bunch of logistics that would mean that I wouldn't be allowed to film probably. No microphones, no SD cards, so the whole thing would just, it wouldn't work. So there were a bunch of logistics that ended up meaning that I just placed people in the most comfortable place I could find. So my dad was on the couch, my mum was on the couch, my dad's best friend Conchita, she was sitting at her dining room table. My little sister was in her bed. She was also extremely sick that week, so I left her in her bed and just filmed her there. Even though it looks a bit odd, I still quite like it. Ties and Stein, they were in Stein's house. That was Stein's living room in Amsterdam, and Matthijs, he was just evidently comfortable leaning on the chairs and putting his feet up. It was quite amusing. And he was just in his drum teaching room. So I think comfort was really important, and it also meant that graphics looked easier and more comfortable. So the introduction titles and things like that, it all kind of eased in throughout the project, and it all felt a lot more natural as the project progressed. And I really like seeing that progression and seeing the improvements, because even though I do have 5 years of photography and cinematography experience and about 3 years of editing experience, I really like that I can still see progress. It's really cool to be able to see the progress, and I think it's really important that I'm still progressing. But yeah, I think this is my last video. So the video I still have to make is the exam artist one. Currently I have 3 artists that I found that I like. but I still kind of have to experiment with to see if I really want to use them or not, and also to see how much their style will actually influence my final project. I have found a couple of materials for my final project. Here, this is one of my dad's work shirts from his postal company, so that'll work well for my installation. So yeah, I think the exam artist, I'm a little bit worried about it because I don't have any installation artists yet, so I'm really gonna have to, you know, hurry up, find installation artists, tell you about it, make a video about it, upload the video before my exams. Thank you very much for watching. See you in my last video.